Hi everyone, welcome back to Abbey Lane Haven. I'm Andrada and today I'm excited to share with you an advanced guide that any beginner can follow to make the perfect sourdough bread. First, let's go over the ingredients and the tools that you'll need. For this recipe, you'll need 1000 grams of flour, between 650 and 800 milliliters of water, anywhere between 100 and 150 grams of starter, and anywhere between 10 and 20 grams of salt. You'll need somewhere like a bowl to mix your ingredients in. You will need a spatula to mix your ingredients with at the beginning, and your hands. A few pro tips here is whenever you choose your flour, make sure that it contains 13 grams at least of protein. This is what will make your bread have a very thin crust, that it is crunchy that day, and for the next 3 days you will have a soft bread and it will be quite fluffy. It will either show 13 grams of protein, either 13% protein. Another tip is to use high quality sea salt. If you want to choose pink Himalayan salt, if it doesn't dissolve properly, you might think it is pink mold. Keep that in mind. If you use your starter from the fridge, make sure the water you're using in the recipe is lukewarm. If you have room temperature starter, the water should be room temperature as well. If you choose a mixing bowl, make sure it is glass and not plastic, or if you use plastic, make sure it is something that you use only for the bread. Metal, however, it is a bit tricky here. If it is stainless steel 100%, you're good to go, but if it is other types of metal, might not work this well, and it will interact with the sourdough. Following these tips will ensure that your bread will be perfect every single time with consistent results. The first thing I do is remove all my rings, because you do not want to make bread or handle dough having rings on. That's a big no-no. One thing I failed to mention is why are you using between 650 and 800 milliliters of water. And that is depending on how much hydration you want in your loaf of bread and how experienced you are in working with wet doughs. The higher the hydration, the better your bread will be. I personally like to use about 750 milliliters of water, just because my starter has a 50-50 ratio, and that will put my sourdough loaf at 78% hydration, and that is a perfect result for baking, for handling, and for preserving long time. Just make sure you don't go anywhere below 650 milliliters of water if you choose to use a flour that has at least 13% protein in it. That's because this type of flour requires a lot of hydration, so keep that in mind. At this point, I like to use my hands just because I have a better feel, and I just like to use my hands at this point. It is also quite therapeutic. I find it as a therapy. It relaxes me and I absolutely love it. I personally do not measure, just because I've been doing this for so long that I know exactly how my loaves should look and how much I need of everything. You should work your dough quite a lot, even though a lot of people say do not work your dough, but you should work your dough, just because everything needs to be perfectly incorporated, and this will give you a feel if you've added enough or if you have added too much flour. I personally use a plastic container just because I make a lot of quantities, and this is specifically bought and dedicated for making bread, so actually it helps me. This would be the time when I add my salt in, and yeah, we're going to be doing that in about a second. 1 scoop of this is about 10 grams. This is what your dough should look like after you finish mixing everything. And what I'm doing now is I'm putting the lid on, seal tight, and I won't be touching it for at least an hour. And now I'm going to be doing the first stretch and fold set as well as coil fold. You will see it's a combination of the both. That's what works the best for me. And I'm going to be doing this every 30 minutes, 3 times, and then I'm going to leave it to rest for longer, but I'll tell you more on that. I'm going to be showing the first and the last stretch and fold. Now I'm going to put the lid on and I'll see it in 30 minutes. And this is what my dough looks before the final stretch and fold. And I have to tell you why it's in this small bowl. And the thing is that yesterday, right before the last stretch and fold, I got really sick. This is quite common for me, given my condition and all. But I was so sick that I couldn't stand and I had to lay down, and all my energy had to go into taking care of my son until my husband can come from work and help me from there. So what I did was, I did the last stretch and fold, but I just didn't film. And I covered it and left it on the side until my husband could come home. Well, after the last stretch and fold, you have a few options, but the most important thing, you have to let it rise for another 3 hours on, that's called a bulk ferment. And we're doing the bulk ferment for 3 to 4 hours, depending on how warm it is, so depending on the temperature that you have inside the house. And yeah, so I left my dough for those hours, and when my husband came home, I still wasn't well. So I told him I have 2 options now. So it's either I form the loaves and put them in the fridge overnight, or I form the loaves, bake them now, or I just gonna to leave the dough overnight in the basement because it's a bit cooler than in the house, and I can bake it in the morning and see what happens. And I was 100% sure if I do this, like, I'm gonna end up with having a focaccia dough, even though the flour that I'm using, you can leave it for 24 hours at room temperature. However, it is very hot outside because it's summertime and I'm always sweaty, and I was really sure that I'm going to end up with focaccia, and that's what I did today, with the exception that I did try something crazy, but you will see that a little bit later in the video. Let's proceed with the last stretch and fold. And after you finish with the stretch and folds, you are going to allow it to rise. Given the fact that this is only one bread, I have to leave it for only about 3 hours, and for the sake of today's video, I'm going to bake it today. But at this point, you can put it in the fridge, and that's the cold retard stage. And actually, it is very important. I highly advise you to try it because it is good. You can leave it in the fridge for overnight or up to 72 hours, depending how tangy you like your bread. I do like when it is quite sour. It is healthy, it is good for my gut, it is good for everyone. The bacteria in there is the best. It's been a few hours now. The dough is ready. It's ready to be shaped. It is ready to put in the banneton, which is already floured. It is rice flour. This is what I am using. The only difference probably that you will be able to tell is if you are going to shape your dough now. Anyways, at this point you will shape and put in the fridge, but the only difference is with baking it now is that whenever we will put it on the parchment paper, it won't hold the shape as much because the dough is warm, and I like it when I take it out of the fridge because the dough is actually cold and it holds the shape so much better for scoring, but it wouldn't make such a big difference right now. This is where we are at. I'm going to show you what the dough looks like. That's how would I have kept it anyways to make focaccia. So it is all bubbly and jiggly, and it is actually perfect for focaccia or pizza. I'm going to bake it all into focaccia and keep a small dough, and probably for lunch I'm going to make a pizza for my son, which is going to be absolutely delicious for sure. And yeah, this is what we're working with. It happens many times, and I do believe that maybe some of the people that I'm gonna give the focaccia to are going to enjoy it. And yeah, let's do this. I had the craziest idea ever. If you can hear anything, that's the oven in the background. It's right behind you and there is nothing I can do about it. I still have one focaccia in there and I am preheating my Dutch oven just because I had the craziest idea ever, which is with the remaining of the dough to try to still bake it into a loaf of bread and see what happens. And because it is so runny, I'm going to need to add some flour. You know that I cannot have regular flour without fermenting it because of the gluten in it and all of that. I need to deactivate the bad stuff in it, so I'm going to use cornmeal. I've heard of it, haven't done it, but this is what I'm going to be using. And I'm going to add some inclusions. I'm going to add sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, black and white, oats, and pumpkin seeds, and see what happens. And yeah, going to take you along. Might be a big fail, but we will see. I always bake my bread at 220 degrees covered for 45 minutes, and then I take the lid off and continue to bake for another minute up to 3 minutes depending on how golden at 250 degrees. Now, that being said, I preheat the oven and my cast iron oven at 250 degrees for an hour, and then I lower the temperature to 220 right when I put my dough in. So this is what I'm doing. This is what we are going to be doing next. So this is the focaccia. It looks absolutely amazing. It is still hot, but I want to cut through it with you for you to see. This is what it looks like. It is absolutely amazing and so soft. Just perfection. Look, it is so soft. It's just amazing. I will cut through this one and see what it looks like in a bigger slice because it is in a shape of a bread. Delicious. We're going to test this loaf and see what it is. I don't really have high hopes. We're going to see what's inside because this was well overproofed, but let's see what happened. So sounds good. It is crunchy. It is not the softest crust, but it is not the hardest crust. It's somewhere in between. Let's slice it open and see what is inside. It's good. It definitely has potential, and I think I'm gonna tweak this recipe and then it's gonna be perfect. But yeah, I'm surprised. This is the final product. It looks absolutely amazing. It is still warm a little bit, but we can cut through and you can see what it looks like. It is so soft and fluffy, absolutely gorgeous. So let's see what it looks inside, and yeah, I'm very happy with the result, and this is what you should expect if you follow every single tip. Let's dig in. And look how soft it is. Excellent. That's what I call perfection. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed watching this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to know whenever I post another video, you can click on the notification bell that is down below, so you will never miss any video that I upload. See you in my next one. Bye.